I'll call it to order then. Call to order this special meeting, the Oversight Board for the Glendale Successor Agency. And the date is the 20th of January, 2016. Oh, 26, that's correct then. And roll call, please.
Board Member Opgarian. Here. Barry. Here. McIntyre.
Here.
Nakasone.
Here.
Ochoa. Steger. Chiragio.
Here. And the report?
The agenda for the January 27, 2016 special meeting of the Glendale Oversight Board was posted on Thursday, January 21st, 2016 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
I'll entertain an approval of minutes.
2A minutes of Spiegel Oversight Board meeting of Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014, and minutes of regular Oversight Board meeting of November 4th, 2015. We would need to separate these motions.
All right. First one?
23rd. Would you like us to read July 23rd? No?
We don't have the appropriate body in attendance today, so we'll carry those forward.
Okay.
And the November 4th meeting?
Second.
Any disagreements? Seeing none?
The wrong.
Roll call, please.
Board Member Opgarian.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
McIntyre.
Yes.
Nakasone.
Yes.
Ochoa. Steger. Chair Reggio.
Yes.
Pronounce that right? Correct.
And any informational items?
None at this time.
All right. We'll go on to item 4 then.
4 action items. A, Director of Community Development regarding recognized obligation payment schedule for the period of July 2016 through 2017, ROPS 1617. 4A1, Oversight Board Resolution to adopt recognized obligation payments schedule for the period of July 2016 through June 2017, ROPS 1617, including administrative budget for the same period.
Chair and board members, I happily passed the ROPS baton over to Cassandra Pruitt a couple of ROPSes ago, so I'll introduce our administrative officer who has been preparing the ROPS for, I believe, the last 2 or 3 schedules, and she will give you the highlights of our first annual ROPS.
Good afternoon, Chair Raggio and Oversight Board members. Today we are reviewing the agency's first annual ROPS, which covers the period of July 2016 through June 2017. And there's 2 items I'd like to note about this ROPS. The first is that we sold 2 properties according to the Long Range Property Management Plan, and we got about $4.4 million in sale proceeds. So we're going to be using those funds to fund items on the ROPS instead of asking for that amount in our PTTF. The other item I'd like to note is that we're retiring a few items from the ROPS. One of them is line 11, which was related to the property disposition costs for the Hyatt Hotel site. Another line item we're retiring is for the KABC infrastructure improvements, which have now been completed. And we're retiring line 21, which was for the agreement with the county to pass back a share of its tax increment from the San Fernando Road Corridor project for regional improvements. That agreement has been approved to be transferred over to the City of Glendale and is no longer an obligation of the agency. So the city will now receive the funds and administer the projects. With your approval of the ROPS, it'll be submitted to the Department of Finance by February 1st. And because this is now transferring over to an annual ROPS, the new Dissolution Act language adopted in September authorizes the agency to make a one-time adjustment to the ROPS if needed. We don't anticipate anything at this time, but if that would happen, it would be approved by the Oversight Board and submitted to the DOF by October 1st. That's all I wanted to note about the ROPS. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions?
I have one. What is included in the administrative budget portion?
That covers maintenance and operations, which is rent for our office space, computer use, copying, shipping, printing, and also salary and budget for administrative staff.
Okay, so are those co-funded people or exclusively funded people?
We only charge a percentage of the salary based on what the staff is actually working on
Okay,
for the agency.
great. That was it. Thank you.
So it's kind of a time and material then.
Right.
All right. Is it,
Just a couple of pretty general question. The total obligations are, is it 33,453,000? Is that the number? I can read the profit loss statements, but this things are getting more and more complicated
Yes,
with
that's the-
longer and longer papers.
That's the total amount of funding authority that we're requesting for the entire fiscal year.
Okay, so that's 33 million. And what is the current cash on hand for the,
If
and
you,
that's one thing I couldn't find.
sure. If you go over to the cash balances sheet, which is the second spreadsheet that there is,
Okay,
what this is this is an analysis of all the cash on hand as of the end of the period before the current period. So, well, this is what we anticipate to have by the end of the period that ends just before this ROPS begins. So if you look
Right.
at line 11, this is the anticipated cash on hand as of July 1st, 2016. So we anticipate that we're going to have about $2 million in 2010 bond proceeds. For the 2011 bond proceeds, we have a large amount of $43 million because we're not authorized to spend those funds yet. Columns E and F are reserve balance, which consists of funds that were retained from the DDR, which is for the Lemley project, and also excess RPTTF from prior ROPS periods that we haven't spent down yet. Column G is other funds, which includes rent revenues from, for example, our Maryland retail spaces, interest revenue earned on all these accounts, and other kind of, this is also where the sale proceeds go, is in this column. And then column H is RPTTF, which is just fresh RPTTF that we're requesting.
okay. So then cash on hand is about 49, and we're spending about 33.
Well, are you including the 2011 bond proceeds? Because we're not authorized to spend those funds at this time.
The 43 million, we are not authorized to spend those.
Right.
Okay. So cash on hand is 2 plus 5, we have about 7.5 or whatever, minus the 40. We can't spend a 42 and a change, right?
Yes, I think what you might be getting at is why aren't we spending that full amount? If you look in cell G9, you'll see that there's 16 million, which is, hold on, G. No, I'm sorry, it's line 10. If you look at line 4 and line 10, you see that we have a large amount of money that we're retaining. So in line 4, that 17 million includes the county passback agreement. Then in line 10, we've taken it off because we're now going to be retiring that. But we're still retaining about 5 million here because this is tied up because of our agreements that we have. For example, the Disney passback agreement, the Disney agreement, we have to reserve tax increment for infrastructure improvements in that area. We're not allowed to spend that money. We have to retain it for that specific use.
Okay.
So if I could just add, this, the cash balances sheet is intended for DOF's review to see all of the pots of funding that we have, which includes bond proceeds, some that we're authorized to spend, some that are still stranded. It also includes cash before we were the successor agency. It includes cash as the successor agency for new projects or ongoing projects going forward. And as the ROPS is based on estimates, when we first started, we were being more conservative. We were asking for we had construction projects and we anticipated contingencies. So as we've gotten better at preparing the ROPS, our numbers have gotten tighter. And so some of the excess cash that we're carrying has just been, larger estimates in the beginning. So our goal is to turn over or spend down that cash quickly because it makes reconciling a lot easier, the less funding sources that we have. The cash, the ROPS expenditure or the ROPS schedule is cash on hand, new funding, and some of the bond proceeds. So the two, if you try to reconcile them, won't, because as Ms. Pruitt indicated, we have some legally restricted funding that we have to report because it's cash sitting in the agency's accounting if you think of the city and then
But
the
it
agency.
cannot be spent for anything else except restricted funds.
Correct, correct. So the cash balance sheet will look larger or have more cash, but the cash available to fund obligations coming due next fiscal year is going to be a smaller number.
Is it going to be at least $33 million? I mean, I'm just trying to, we're approving $33 million in spending. And I'm just trying to balance that with how much money is there to,
Do you have then enough money to spend?
that's all, I mean, are we going to have we're approving
So-
$33 million for spending. Where is that money coming from is what I'm asking.
If you look on the summary sheet, that shows that we're asking for 33 million, and it breaks it out into the basic RPTTF and non-RPTTF funding sources.
Just walk us through that sheet.
Okay, so you'll see that A, E, and H are bolded, so these are the subcategories. A represents all of the enforceable obligations that are funded with non-RPTTF. So this represents money that we have on hand. So it includes the bond proceeds, reserve funding, and our other funding, which is sale proceeds, rents, et cetera. So that's showing that we have a total of 9.8 million that we're spending from that. Then we're requesting 23 or about 24 million in RPTTF. So that together equals 33 million.
Majority of that 24 million is towards our debt service, our outstanding bond obligations.
Mhm.
Does that satisfy your question?
Yes?
Okay. Any more questions? Entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Member Upgarian,
Abstain.
Barry,
Yes.
McIntyre,
Yes.
Nakasone,
Yes.
Ochoa, Steger, Chair Raggio.
Yes. Next item, please.
Oral communications, there are no speaker cards at this time.
Thank you. Board member, staff, comments?
Just looking forward, we do not anticipate holding a February meeting, but we will hold a March meeting, which I believe is March 2nd, first Wednesday of the month.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to announce, about 2.5 years ago, you approved a refunding of our bonds, the 2002, 2003, and 2010 bonds. We had the Department of Finance approve that refunding as well. At the time we issued, only the 2002 and 3 bonds had the right interest rates to where we would save money. Your approval, though, was still active, as was the Department of Finance. Conditions are just right today, and so the Successor Agency has approved the refunding of the 2010 bonds. We anticipate savings to the taxing entities, that's all of us, of approximately $4.4 million. Mr. Abkarian, Mr. Raggio, county is about half. Mr. McIntyre, I think this school is 22, 23%. The city is 13.5%, and the college district is somewhere around 3, 4, 5%. So when we issue those bonds, we will have a lower debt service, resulting in more distribution of property tax to each of the entities that you represent. We anticipate selling those bonds mid-February with a close in March.
So we'll get a report in March's meeting then.
We'll tell you the results, and we've checked with the Department of Finance, who said, no, the approval is still valid. Go ahead and refund, as long as we're not stretching it out farther, the debt service, and we're not increasing the amount. Both of those, the The maturity date will stay the same. The debt service will go down. Good thing for all of us.
Questions?
I'm sorry, who was our banker for that? Who was the banker? The
It'll be Hilltop Securities that also did the 2013 refunding. We anticipate, the Fed has already moved to raise interest rates, so we would need to move quickly. We've reassembled the same team that we did for the 2013 refunding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a need for a closed session? Any new business? Then, with your permissions, I'll adjourn the meeting.